It's been 20 years since the fated spider bite that was meant to forever change the life of Peter Parker didn't happen. What became of him and what became of a world without Spider-Man? Well, let's hop into the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 1, a brand new series courtesy of comic book superstar Jonathan Hickman, and find out together, shall we? So then, this brand new series wastes no time getting started. We're introduced to an older Peter Parker who is rocking one hell of a dad beard. But moreover than that, he has a nice house, 2 loving children with Mary Jane, a steady job, as well as a mysterious orb. Oh, don't worry, we'll circle back to the mysterious orb later, I promise. You gotta circle back to the mysterious orb. Peter's still working at the paper with Betty and Jonah. Jonah still yells a lot, but guess what? There's one very big change in this brand new universe, and that is, well, Aunt May have died. When the Maker's Secret Council blew up Iron Lad and the Proto-Avengers, Uncle Ben not only lived, but he actually went to work at the paper too, becoming the assistant editor. And seemingly Jonah's best friend too, actually really managing to soften his heart, something I never thought I would see. Today is actually a big day not only for Ben and Peter, but for the entire paper as well, as today just so happens to be a special anniversary memorial service for all the lives lost in the Stark Tower terrorist attack. Yes, that's right, the powers that be are still blaming Tony for everything that went bad that day and all the lives lost. Peter is worried about Uncle Ben. He hadn't taken May's death very well, and unlike being raised by the much more emotionally observant May, Ben tended to keep a lot of things in, played it very close to the chest, and because of that, Peter ends up doing the same. But still, Peter knows that all of this has to be really affecting for his uncle, and he wants to be there for him. Hell, Jonah wants to be there for him too. There's a great scene where Jonah actually gives Peter his tie. The memorial service itself ends up being a real star-studded affair. We see Father Matt Murdock, a local priest. Isn't it funny that Matt ended up being a priest in both the main and Ultimate continuity now? As well as the guest of honor, Harry Osborn, who lost both of his parents in the explosion, Norman and Emily, and wouldn't you know it, not being raised by the man who would be the Green Goblin, Harry seems to be thriving at first glance. Oh sure, he misses his father and gives a heartfelt speech about everything that could have been, but for the most part, he actually seems to be alright. But wait, here's a twist for you. Peter and Harry aren't friends in this new Ultimate timeline. Oh sure, they know of each other, but their lives ended up taking really different avenues. What with no spiders and goblins to continually end up forcing them back together over the years. Now that whole service was hard to get through emotionally, but the hits keep on coming when Ben and Jonah make it back to the Bugle. It seems that a hostile takeover is already in motion, stemming mostly from, get this, how the Bugle has chosen to investigate and report on the Stark terrorist attacks over the years. Mainly they've been asking questions, and the secret formerly Maker-affiliated powers that be behind the scenes can't have that. Because of that, they've sent in a few ringers to try and take control of the paper, mainly in the form of Wilson Fisk, and judging by the eye patch, Don Rigoletto. Obviously, Ben and Jonah aren't putting up with any of this crap, and they both decide to just quit on the spot. Instead, deciding to go and drown their sorrows at the bar with no name, which seemingly is not a supervillain bar in this world that might actually be devoid of supervillains at this point in history. The two old men aren't going to lay down and take this, though. In fact, over some drinks, they already planned their next course of action. They are going to be creating this world's version of the truth, which maybe it'll be television or internet or streaming. Again, they say that all of that is a day 2 problem to deal with. Now, you might be thinking to yourself almost 4 minutes in, geez, this has been really Ben and Jonah heavy so far. Isn't this Ultimate Spider-Man? Please don't tell me this is going to end up as another book where Spider-Man is a supporting character in his own life. Well, don't worry, Jonathan Hickman thought of that. So much to the point that when Peter actually does end up joining his uncle at the bar, they actually end up having quite the conversation about life. All issue long, it seems that Peter was really worried about his uncle's state, when in reality, it's more like he was projecting. Yes, that's right, Peter is going through some sort of midlife crisis, feeling that maybe he hasn't done enough with his life, and that maybe he was always meant to do something more, something better. And that to see his uncle, even at his advanced age, bounce back from one hell of a setback to try something new, well, it just kind of inspires him even more. And while Ben doesn't give him the old with great power comes great responsibility speech, he does give a similar speech saying that, hey, you can't be a backseat passenger in your own life. Inaction is itself a kind of action. Don't think it, do it, stupid. Now, hey, what happened to Wilson Fisk? Well, funny story about that. He went back to his car later that night after trying to take over the paper, only for his his SUV to blow up. No, it's not a gangland car bomb, but instead actually the work of a Green Goblin. Now, could this possibly be Harry, or is that meant as a red herring and there's actually someone else in the suit in this universe? I don't know. But Spider-Man sure does love a good goblin mystery, am I right? So why should this new Ultimate Universe be any different? Later that night, we see Peter at home putting his kids down for bed. We don't get to spend much time with the daughter, but the son, Richard, we discover is something of a literature nerd reading the original unabridged version of Tale of Two Cities, proving that the nerd apple did not fall very far from the nerd tree, though we have to wonder in these 20 years has Peter actually kept up with his super science. With the kids asleep, Peter is finally free to fill in wife MJ about everything that happened to him today, and oh boy is it a lot to cover. It's here too that he says to his wife how he thinks he needs a change, not in his work life, that's fine, he's okay working with Robbie. At least for the time being. Oh no, the sort of change that Peter is talking about in his life starts and ends with himself. Again, Mary Jane is not stupid. She says over the last year she has noticed a dark cloud hanging over Peter, and that because he was so supportive of her quitting her job and starting a new business, she says she's more than willing to support him on a journey of self-discovery, assuming that it won't change anything between them and the kids. But what does Peter exactly mean when he says that he's looking for a change in his life? Surely he's not talking about getting a tattoo or a motorcycle. Oh no, he's referring to something that happened to him not too long ago. Remember that orb? Well, turns out it was actually a gift from Iron Lad, who sent this and assumedly many other catalysts that the Maker was hoarding to superheroes all over the world. At first, Peter doesn't believe anything that the Iron Lad hologram is saying, because as far as he knew, Iron Lad was some sort of terrorist that killed his aunt. But more and more, though, what Tony said to him started to incept in his mind that Peter was robbed of a great heritage, that he was meant to become one of the most prominent superheroes the world had ever known. And yet, despite everything that's happened to him in his life, the good and the bad, it's still not too late. As the comic comes to an end, Peter climbs to the top of a roof only to open up the ball and reveal the fated spider. He lets it bite him, and it's on that note right there the comic comes to a close. And so that was Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 1, everybody. Probably one of the most hotly anticipated comics we're gonna see all year. The old Ultimate Spider-Man under Bendis was an institution that basically started and ended the entire line, so I think Hickman and everyone else involved in this new Ultimate series knew exactly how hard they needed to hit this one out of the park, especially considering just by the power of name recognition alone, they managed to get a ton of wayward, fair-weather comic fans back in shops and interested for the first time in a long time. And for what it's worth, I think they mostly do nail everything they're trying to do here. This is a fresh, new, never-before-seen take on Spider-Man. He's older, he has responsibilities, but they're different responsibilities. He's happy and well-adjusted with a loving family, and it's something that's probably going to get a lot of pressure put on it now that he's decided to become a hero later on in life. For what it's worth, I don't think you need to read the other Hickman Ultimate stories to understand what's going on in this one. They do a pretty good job getting you up to speed, but it would probably enhance it if you did read those books. I will say, though, my one minor bugbear that's been persisting all throughout these new Hickman Ultimate stories continues to persist, and that is the idea that for a brand new universe, with fresh, new, exciting ideas and never-before-seen directions for your favorite heroes, boy, they do spend a lot of time talking about the old 616 universe that was, am I right? I mean, I'm sure those comparisons will calm down eventually, but every time they make a comparison in this story, I'm like, oh, come on, you're better than that. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one an 8.5 out of 10. This is Hickman in rare form, a form that I think a lot of people haven't seen him in since, geez, I don't know, the early days of his Fantastic Four run, writing Reed and Sue. And I'll be interested to see where the series goes from here. Lord knows, in a time and place when the main Amazing Spider-Man title continues to grind my gears, it's just nice to have another Spider-Man option out there, isn't it?
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.